Смятам, че би било интересно на читателите да научат повече за вас и още повече за вашия първи досег с тантра. Какъв беше той и какво ви накара да тръгнете по пътя на това учение?
Well, as for myself, I was having a lot of spiritual tendencies from a very young age. I was spontaneously praying and meditating and doing various other spiritual activities like reading the Bible a lot and so on. But I still continued on the path which is normal, so I went and became a lawyer, advocate, I think they call it. And I worked for a while as a lawyer, but I realized back in 1996 that it's time for me to go back to what my heart wanted, and that was the spiritual path. So I researched a lot, and I found that what was very attractive for me and spoke to me was yoga. I tried different styles of yoga. I saw that a lot of the yoga out there is very superficial, more gymnastics, more about the body oriented. And I wanted to find what it really is. So after a lot of research, I found some of the traditional yoga texts, such as the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I started reading these texts and I realized that yoga actually has a very deep spiritual dimension, and it's not just stretching and being flexible and stuff like that. And as a result of that, as I read more and more of those spiritual texts, I felt a calling to find a teacher, a spiritual guru, because actually that's what the texts say. Every time the text says you need to learn this technique, always find a guru. They always mention it. So I said, okay, I have to do it. So after about 3 years of being a lawyer during the day and a yoga aspirant and practitioners in the afternoons and evenings, I had enough. And I said I have to make a choice. And I decided to go to India and research. So I sold my car, got rid of my apartment, and then I went to India, stopped being a lawyer ever since then. And I went to India, and back in 1999 I was there, and I started researching yoga. I looked into many different yoga schools and all kinds of teachers, and I discovered that in India, I was in Rishikesh, which is considered to be the yoga capital of the world. Still, even in India, there's a lot of amateur, superficial aspects of yoga. Because in India, many of the locals, nice people, but they all know that foreigners, tourists from the West, they come and they don't know what is right. And anyone that looks Indian and respectable and does yoga, you believe. But I studied those texts, so I was ready. And I realized that a lot of them were simply not the right thing. And I did not agree to compromise. And I kept on looking and looking until eventually I managed to find, and it was not easy, but I managed to find real spiritual masters. And I immediately started studying with them and doing a lot of practice. And I started teaching yoga already a few months later because I really committed to a very, very strong spiritual practice. And I've done this for a long time. And ever since then, it continued. And I, at some point, started teaching in the West a lot. In 2008, I already started teaching in Europe and in various other countries. And after some time, when I reached to Estonia to teach there, I found that Estonia was a country that was very welcoming. I also met Lisa, who shortly after, a few years later, became my wife. And she also was a student of mine in the beginning, and she was really getting into the whole teaching and so on. So after some time, I trained her to become a teacher as well, of yoga and tantra. And when I say tantra, because when I was in India in the early years, the teachers that I found, one of them was also a tantra master. And then I've studied with him a lot, and I discovered that the authentic form of yoga, not all of it, but some of the most powerful forms of yoga, Kundalini and otherwise, and others like Hatha Yoga, are all part of Tantra. And that's how I became a tantric, really. And I've been teaching Tantra in different ways and different kinds, as I said, in many different countries around the world since about 2008. I've started teaching in India since 2000, but internationally I went 2008. And that's it. Since then, I've been in many countries. Lisa has been teaching with me. I've trained her, and she has become a great teacher as well. And yeah, that's a little bit about my background.